So what we're going to be talking about today is how can we add spot colors to our design. So we just went through a ton of information about why spot colors are a good thing to do and why we'd want to use them, but how do we actually do that here in Illustrator? Because everything that we've done, like through the color palette, right, is all for the most part CMYK, right? All we have is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Where are these spot colors actually found? How can we actually add them? So to get us started, we need to kind of create a document so that we can kind of play around with these. So first thing I want you to do, grab a shape tool. It could be a rectangle tool, an ellipse tool, polygon tool, I don't care what it is. Grab a shape tool, and what I want you to do is, for the appearance, I want you to remove the stroke, so no stroke. Get rid of that. And then fill it with a color. Could be any CMYK color you want. I'm going to choose cyan to get started with. And once you have that set, I just want you to create a bunch of that shape here on the design. They can overlap. They can be any shape that you want them to be. It doesn't really matter. Just create a bunch of them. Okay? All right. Don't worry about trying to align them just right and making them look perfect or creating a pattern. Forget that. Just put a bunch of shapes on the page. Second thing, choose a different shape and then choose a different fill color. So I'm going to choose the ellipse tool and I'm going to change mine to maybe this red color here. So I'm just going to create a bunch of shapes. And it doesn't matter if they overlap. That's fine. Just create a bunch of shapes, something like that. Okay? So mix it up. All right. Great. So now I've got two sets of shapes set in two different CMYK colors. Now, let's imagine for a moment that I had a client that said, okay, this is a great looking design. I'd question that client for a moment, but this is a great looking design. However, you know those blue rectangles that you have? They actually need to be a spot color. And those red circles that you have, they need to be a different spot color. Okay, great. Well, first thing is, where do we find these spot colors? So, I want everybody to come up here to the window menu, and I want you to scroll all the way down until you get to swatches. Swatches. Anybody who grew up in the 80s, this is not the watch. See, a few of you in here are nodding like you know what I'm talking about. That's good. Go to the swatches palette. So, here's what the swatches palette kind of looks like. And I'm going to pull this down so we can kind of see a little bit more. So you got all these little squares of different colors everywhere in here. Now, what I can do with a swatch is, let's say I've got specific colors that I'm using in my design. And let's say I wanted to create a color. So maybe I would go to, like, say the color palette like this. And let's say that I wanted to use this particular kind of like lavender kind of a purple. Well, instead of me having to remember every single time that this purple that I want to use is made up of 58.43% cyan and 65.49% magenta, right? I can create that color here, and then here in my swatches, I can click the plus button, and it will say, hey, do you want to add this? And I can say, yes, right? This is maybe my client's lavender. And then I can click OK. And then here's my little swatch. That's my little swatch, client lavender, right? And now that's available. So if I were to select this and I can click on that, boom, I can apply the swatch. Isn't that easy? That's really nice. Now, your swatches stay with your file. So when I save my Illustrator file, all that swatch information is kept right there. But I don't want a CMYK mix here, right? I'm not trying to create a CMYK mix. What I really want is I want a spot color. So how do I find a spot color? Well, that's where the swatches palette can help us out. Up here in the top right-hand corner of the swatches palette is a hamburger icon. Yes, these 3 lines are called a hamburger. I didn't name it. I didn't make that up. That's a real thing. Click on the little hamburger menu icon, please. Okay. Now, come all the way down at the bottom. You may want to go, oh, there's spot color. Nope, don't click on that. They're going to fool you. Don't do that. Come all the way down here to Open Swatch Library. Because what we want to do is we want to open a specific library of colors. The color we're going to use is Toyo. You'll find that under Color Books. And you come down here, we want to use the Toyo Color Finder. Not Toyo 94, that's a different set of colors. So again, you go to Swatches. You click on the little hamburger icon. You go all the way down to Open Swatch Library, to Color Books, and then you'll find your Toyo. If you're taking notes, write that down. If not, I think it's also on the assignment sheet. Okay? Plus, you'll have this recording later if you want to do that. So go ahead and click on Toyo Color Finder. Not Toyo 94, Toyo Color Finder. And this looks kind of like the swatches, right? I open this up. Look at all these colors. See all these colors right here? Notice, unlike my client lavender that I have right here, do you see that little white triangle in the bottom right-hand corner of my lavender? When I come over here to the swatches, notice each one of these has a dot or a spot on it. Does everybody see those? That tells me that's a spot color. So that's a spot color swatch. That's a CMYK swatch. Okay? Now, the Toyo Color Finder, I can come in here and I can make these a little bit bigger if I wanted to kind of look through them like that. I can do a list view and I can just try to find it based on their number. Or I can actually type a number up here in the search bar. So here's what I want everybody to do. We want to find the Toyo color 10159. Did everyone get that swatch to come up? All right. To add it to my swatches, just simply click on it. Notice it's now been added to my swatches. Well, let's add a second one. I'm going to clear that one out. The next one I want is 10025. Okay? Now, I'm just making these up. I mean, they're real colors, but I'm just making up the numbers as we go. Okay? There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just making these up. So we have this kind of a magenta plum kind of a color. Click on that. That adds it to my swatches. Once I have the spot colors that I need, I can go ahead and close the color book. Okay? So now, here in my document, I've got 2 spot colors and a CMYK color. Does everybody have that? Anyone need more time? All right. So, first task, and don't get ahead of me on this. I want to change all of my squares, my first shape, that are currently cyan. I want to change them to this Toyo color, 10159. Now, how would I go about doing that? Ideas?
Individually pick each one.
Yeah, I could go in here and I can go click, 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 click. You could do that, right? Now, if you're doing that right now, stop what you're doing and undo it. Because, to be honest with you, that's a pain in the neck. Nobody wants to have to click through all these. Plus, look, I've got this little one that's kind of peeking out right here. What if I miss that? That could be a problem, isn't it? Because remember, if I convert this to 2 spot colors, that's just 2 colors that have to run on the press, right? What happens if I accidentally leave an element in here that's a CMYK color? I've gone from 2 colors now to 6, right? Because this red right here, that's a CMYK color. If I don't get all of my reds, if I leave one in there, this design, when I go to color separation, it's not a 2-color separation. It's a 6-color job. Now the cost has gone way up, and I can't run this on a 4-color press. Do you see where the problem becomes? We want to make sure that we get this right. So, how do we do this easily? Well, Illustrator has a way to do this. Here's what I want you to do. Select one of your first shapes. So I'm going to select one of my rectangles that happens to be cyan. Okay? You're going to love this feature. All right. Go up to the Select menu. Go down to Same. Check out these options. Now, here's what Illustrator will allow me to do. The object that I have selected, I have the ability to tell Illustrator, I want you to select everything else in my document if they have the same, like let's say, stroke color. Well, I don't have any strokes. That doesn't really help, right? If they're the same shape, well, they have to be exact. Maybe that's not the way to do it. But look at this. Fill color. Select the fill color option and notice what happens. All, including the little rectangle that's hiding behind my circle, has now been selected. Isn't that a lot easier than trying to go through individually? Now that they're selected, come back over here to your swatches and select your first Toyo color. Ta-da! Isn't that nice? All right. Now let's do the same thing, but with your second shape. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to select one of my circles. I'm going to go up to the Select menu, go to Same, Fill Color. And I'm going to make that the second Toyo color. That plum color right there. Ta-da! Isn't that easy? Now, as you're kind of going through this, well, how can you check your work? How can you make sure that you got all of those colors, right? So like for instance, let's say this little guy right here is actually this is like a CMYK color, right? It's kind of hard to see it, isn't it? So what I just did is I just changed this guy into a CMYK color. If I come in here and I go, oh, well, let me just come up here, select, same, fill color. There it is. All right, great. There it is. Everything is selected. This all looks good. Notice what I'm missing. Is that selected? No, it's not. Let me show you how to do this. I didn't delete. I hid all of my selected objects. When I did that, what did that show me?
Which one do you want?
Yeah, oops, I missed one. Do you see this? So, here's what I want you to do. Select one of the shapes and give it a CMYK color that's kind of close. Just one of the shapes, doesn't matter. You will know which one it is, so it's not much of a surprise, but just choose it. And then I want you to go through, pick one of the spot colors, go back to select, same, fill color. Select all the spot colors. Now notice the one you changed to CMYK is not selected. Now, just to check to make sure everything is going good, here's what I want you to do. Write down this keyboard shortcut because this will save you a ton of time. Okay? I'll show you where to find this in the menu in a minute, but I want you to write the shortcut down. Command 3. Command 3. Command 3 hides anything that's currently selected. Now, here's the problem. How do I get it back? I didn't delete it, right? I hit it. How do I get it back? Write this keyboard command down. You ready? Command Option 3. Command Option 3. That will bring them all back. Now, if you're the type of person who doesn't like keyboard shortcuts, first of all, get over it. Start to love the keyboard. Secondly, if you need to know where to find this in your menu. So I still have all my objects selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the Object menu. Right, it's going to be up here in the Object menu. There's an option that's called Hide. Hide Selection. Notice that has a keyboard shortcut of Command 3. Underneath Hide is Show All, which is Option Command 3 or Command Option 3. Either one works. That's where you can find it in the menu. So if you really need to click and you love clicking a lot, that's where you can find it. Okay? But what that does is that immediately allows me to kind of go, okay, did I get them all? No, obviously I did not. Okay, great. Well, I'll just come in here and fix that up just like that. There we go. Great. And now if I come back up here, select same, fill color, and try it again. Okay, great. I got them all. Okay? That's a quick way of being able to check your work. Same thing with the other one. If I wanted to choose the different spot color, same, fill color, Command 3, they all disappeared. They look good to me. Bring them all back. I'm good to go. Questions about this? So now at this point, I should have a 2-color document, right? This design should be 2 colors. Shouldn't have any CMYK involved. It's 2 spot colors. Now, one thing I do want to point out that I didn't talk about earlier when I discussed things like, when you're using Pantone. You may be tempted to go, oh, well, if I can do this job with just 2 spot colors instead of 2 colors that happen to be a mix of CMYK, which really becomes a 4-color job, I can save my client money, right? Or I can save myself money because then I'm only printing on 2 colors instead of 4. However, spot colors cost more than your basic CMYK colors. So think of these as premium inks and CMYK colors as your standard inks. So something to be thinking about when you're trying to figure out cost effectiveness or the overall cost of a design. Okay? So that 8-color PMS, the 8-color spot color design I showed you for the suntan lotion or sunblock lotion or whatever it is, that was a very expensive print. But when you're selling that many bottles of sunblock, it's not that big of a deal, right? So something to be thinking about. All right, any questions about this? Okay.